Awesome. Hello, Haley here again from Vitality Health Matrix for another mini training focusing on elevated lifestyle strategies for wellness. And today's call is the second part to last week's call where we talked all about sleep and how to improve your circadian rhythm. Now, if you didn't get to join live last week, or maybe you didn't even get to check the recording, but you are interested in this topic, I really encourage you to go back to last week and listen to that recording. You can totally find the links to recordings. They are always shared in the call post in our community chat thread, but they are also found in the resource library of your program. Just scroll down to the very last section and you will find the section titled Recorded Group Coaching Calls, and you'll find links to each nutritionist playlist, and you'll be able to go into that playlist. It links you to YouTube, and you'll be able to find all the recordings there. All right. Now, last week, I thoroughly explained what our circadian rhythm is, how our sleep is governed by circadian rhythm, and how impactful our circadian rhythm is on our hormones, our blood sugar, insulin regulation, cholesterol, even digestion, the ability to burn fat better. All of these areas are really impacted by our circadian rhythm. I also gave a powerful tip last week for how to improve your sleep and your circadian rhythm by adding in a very simple morning ritual that has to do with sunlight exposure. So yes, what we do in the mornings can absolutely set us up for success at night for good restful sleep. So again, this was a lot of information that I covered last week, but really good helpful information so you can tie all these tips that I'm going to be sharing today to that foundation that I really set in part one in last week's call. So again, if you want to go back to that recording, I really encourage you to do so, just so you can, so this can pair really nicely and everything can be well understood on your end, okay? Now, we are just going to dive right into it. I have a few more tips to give you in addition, like I said, to last week's tips. So let's just jump right on it. So tip number two, this is a really quick tip, but it's a little bedroom tip for when you go to bed. All right, so a couple things that I want to mention here to help. Again, we are talking all about supporting your sleep and your circadian rhythm so you can get to sleep, stay asleep, wake up well rested, right? Have the energy that you need for the day and feel tired enough to be able to get to sleep when you lay down the next night. All right. So with this tip that we are focusing in the bedroom, keep your window curtains drawn at night to help make your room as pitch black as possible, from any street lights that are outside, or if you have constant flow of cars, traffic, or maybe there's a business next to you, right? Just all those scenarios. Really try and shut that out and try your best to make sure there is no light coming from maybe an alarm clock, your phone, a TV even. A lot of us love to go to bed with our TV on, but that can actually be doing more harm than good there. All right. And we are also talking about any other electronic device that really lights up the room, either big or in small ways, like little lights from the controls, right? Like as silly as that sounds, that little bit of light from those controls can be disrupting your sleep. Okay, so in addition to that, naturally wake up with the sunrise if you can. Now, I know, I totally get it. If you have to wake up much earlier because of work, or kids, right? Or you maybe live in the city, then you'll likely need those blackout curtains, right? So if either of those, are the case for you, then that's where a sunrise alarm clock can really come in handy. All right, now a sunrise alarm clock, if you are new to these, they work by simulating a natural sunrise, where they gradually increase the light intensity before you set your desired wake up time, right? So, let's just say you have to wake up at like 5 or 5:30. It's not going to abruptly light up the room right at that time that you set your alarm clock. It's going to gradually work up to to this light, to more intense light at that desired time that you want to wake up. All right. So LED light is what they use, which slowly brightens over a period of time, usually 20 to 60 minutes. And this really helps to mimic the rising sun to help regulate your body's natural circadian rhythms. Now, of course, if you live out in the middle of nowhere and you don't have to rely on curtains to keep your room dark, then that's amazing. You can experience the sun's natural alarm clock when the sun comes in through the window. All right. And when that happens, first thing in the morning, temperatures naturally rise, right, due to the sun. And the light also goes through our eyelids. And this hits a series of signals within our body. So, one, it signals in our optic chiasm to our hypothalamus, to our pituitary, to our pineal gland, which all turns on a bunch of switches and goes, hey, let's turn on some cortisol. It is morning time. All right. So cortisol is naturally higher in the morning, and that is perfectly okay. That's what gets us up and out of bed, right? Now, that's what the sunrise alarm clock can do for you as well. If you need that additional resource, that tool, right, to help you get out of bed. These clocks are really great for just improving wakefulness, especially during darker months or for people who maybe struggle with traditional alarm clocks. I know I do. They're just too abrupt. I'm not a fan. Now, again, waking up with the morning sun or having a sunrise alarm clock can really help to boost energy and alertness. It helps, again, to regulate that sleep and wake cycle that we've been talking about. It increases serotonin, which is your happiness hormone. It supports your metabolism and, supports hormone balance, and it also can help to reduce stress and brain fog as well. So if you have any questions about sunrise alarm clocks, let me know. There are so many on Amazon, just to start with there. So I'm sure you'll be able to find one that you enjoy, and hopefully it works really well for you. Alrighty, now moving on to my next tip, let's talk about winding down for the evening and being really mindful about your workout schedule. All right, now as the sun goes down and earth and nature slows down outside, right? I always say do your best to mimic that in your own environment, meaning slow down and flow into this rhythm in your home. Right now, one of the epidemics I feel like in our culture is the inability to not shut off, to not wind down and rest, right? A lot of us are the opposite of what is going on outside as the sun sets. Now, we're just always doing something, right? If we're not working, then we're cleaning or we're watching TV or we're on our phones or we're doing this or we're doing that, right? We're always very, very good and efficient at adding things to our to-do list. Even if we find ourselves not doing something, we'll turn on the TV, right, to maybe zone out. But we really need to embrace the slowing down aspect, the quiet, the darkness, just like the outside world when the sun goes down. And this will help you wake up feeling really refreshed in the morning. And, you can even use essential oils, of course, or sound therapy or the 478 breathing method. Maybe that's prayer or meditating, intimacy, all of these things to really help bring rest in the evening as well. Anything that is going to help you relax is going to be an amazing tool, an amazing thing to start implementing into your nighttime, your bedtime routine. All right. Now, we always get asked about evening workouts as well. So, let's say you get off work at 5 p.m. and you want to squeeze in a workout before dinner. I'll say it's not the worst thing you can do, but ideally you wouldn't want to work out any later than that. And even more ideally, you would prioritize exercise in the morning if possible or the afternoon. Okay, and here's why. Our nervous system naturally flows from a sympathetic response, which sympathetic is the fight or flight response, right? So it naturally flows from the sympathetic to parasympathetic, which is our rest and digest response, from sunrise to sunset. So matching our workouts to that would be ideal, right? So saving evening workouts, say you weren't able to get anything in the morning or afternoon, and now it's evening time. And again, we're wanting to wind down to relax, right? So maybe you could just opt for a really good walk or doing some yin yoga or opting for stretching, more of a mobility type of workout, right? Those types of things can be so restorative, very gentle, and they also help to move the needle. So never underestimate those forms of workouts or, movement, right? So when we opt for intense evening workouts, really what that does is it ramps up our system. It increases cortisol. It prolongs the production of melatonin, which helps us get to sleep, right? And this throws us out of that rest and digest state and has us going against the flow of circadian rhythm, right? So that kind of ramps up our cortisol levels as well. And that's not what we're looking for at night, especially if we are already struggling with getting to sleep or staying asleep. All right, so to add to this, to further optimize your sleep hygiene, it's really best to keep all electronics out of the bedroom. All right, so ensure your Wi-Fi router, for example, is in a location that isn't near any bedrooms. And even better than that, maybe set a timer on your Wi-Fi router to be turned off at night. That can really help with your sleep. And, even as a side note here, Wi-Fi routers really shouldn't be located in main living areas due to the EMF, for the electromagnetic fields that they emit. So, if they can be placed maybe in a basement or a room that you aren't working in all day or sleeping in at night, that again would be really ideal, not only for overall health, but for your sleep too. In addition, if possible, leave phones out of the bedroom. And again, keep your bedroom pitch black for optimal sleep. All right, so with that tip, wind down, really look at your evening as a chance for some you time, okay? Not mindlessly scrolling, not doing other things that are really taking away from you. You want to pour back into yourself in the evening. Really focus on optimizing just that ability to relax and optimizing melatonin as well, right? Not really wanting to ramp up cortisol again. We're wanting to keep that lower so we could stay in that rest and digest state. Alrighty, now my next tip, we're going to talk really quick about coffee. Now we need to understand that caffeine is a little bit, we just need to understand caffeine just a little bit better, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe I can probably do a separate call where I do a deep dive on coffee and caffeine, but for the sake of time, we'll bypass that. And really what I want you to know today is caffeine, it doesn't produce any energy. It actually produces hormones. All right. Now, if you feel energized from drinking coffee, that is actually a response from your cortisol and your adrenaline hormones, not from energy. All right. Now, you also need to know that caffeine blocks sleep, which I know a lot of you do know, and you do a great job at setting that boundary of caffeine consumption, right? Like not drinking past 12 p.m. or whatever that looks like for you. And that's amazing. But, here's the thing with caffeine. Caffeine fits into a receptor called adenosine, and this receptor is responsible for sleepiness. All right, so with caffeine fitting into that receptor, it blocks sleep. So instead of this receptor naturally drawing us to sleepiness as nighttime approaches, if we have caffeine, in the afternoon, later afternoon, sometimes for some people, you're so sensitive that even if it's later morning, right? it can impact you as well. So if we are having that caffeine consumption, it is blocking that sleep, and it interrupts our ability to fall asleep easily. So caffeine also produces wake hormones, which essentially steals the energy from tomorrow so we can get through today. And those wake hormones, a couple examples are cortisol, or dopamine, serotonin, hormones like that. All right. Now, with that being said, caffeine in very small amounts, as long as, of course, you don't have any like infections present in the body, can be really good for the brain. There are positive, things that come from coffee as well. Okay. Now, if you are a coffee drinker and you plan to stay one, here's a couple hacks for you that I really want you to, one, listen to, right? Write down if you're taking notes. That's always awesome. And start to implement some of these hacks into your life. So first, hold off on your coffee until later morning. All right. Replace coffee. If you typically, wake up, you go pee, you go straight into the kitchen to make your coffee, replace that morning coffee with water. First of all, right? We haven't drank in how long? Overnight, our body is naturally dehydrated. So replenish, rehydrate yourself with a good glass of water, and replace that morning ritual of coffee with a really good routine of going outside, getting some sunlight in your eyes, going on a walk. Some of these things can be so nourishing. And this was a part of my first tip that I shared last week. This really allows your body to naturally boost your cortisol. Then you can break your fast with breakfast at least 30 to 90 minutes upon waking, and then you get the day started. All right. Then let's say, maybe around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, once you've passed that morning cortisol spike and it's coming back down, you can introduce caffeine or coffee at that point. All right. So you're not keeping cortisol too elevated. All right. The breakfast tip is huge. We all do need to be having breakfast within that window of 30 to 90 minutes to help buffer that spike in cortisol. But again, as it's coming back down, then that's a great time where you can have that caffeine if you're wanting it. All right. Also, try not to drink coffee or other sources of caffeine too late in the day. Now, again, we are also different, right? So we all metabolize caffeine very differently as well. But consuming caffeine later in the afternoon can set you up for disrupted sleep or the inability to get to sleep, which can be so, so frustrating. I know a lot of you are there or have been there, right? Especially, before starting the program. So, this is something to be really aware of. Pardon me. Now, maybe you're looking for a good coffee alternative to help you cut back on caffeine, or you're just wanting a healthier, more supportive beverage to enjoy. Maybe your cravings for coffee has greatly diminished. A lot of clients report back on that too. Like, I just realized, I'm pouring my cup of coffee, but I'm maybe getting a couple sips in, like I could care less. These things happen, and that is really cool that your body is just kind of asking you like, hey, let's explore something else. And that could be, again, a more supportive beverage. So this could look like an adaptogenic coffee blend that maybe has medicinal mushrooms or other nourishing ingredients that could be really helpful, especially if you're dealing with adrenal fatigue or elevated cortisol levels, things like that. Brands like Four Sigmatic, Rise, that is spelled RYZE, Mud Water, Everyday Dose. Those are all really good options that I personally tried, so I can speak highly about. There is even something as simple as chicory root coffee. And this is actually not coffee at all, but it really mimics the flavor of coffee and has a wonderful list of benefits tied to it as well. Like antioxidants, it's full in that. It really helps to support digestion and improves blood sugar control, supports healthy weight, just to name a few. So if you have any questions on alternatives, like, okay, what brand of chicory root do you suggest? Or, I'm really torn between these brands of the mushroom coffees that I listed out. Like, just tag me in a comment beneath this call's post in our community group thread, and I will help you out. Okay. Alrighty, awesome. So my last tip here is going to address those who are struggling with insomnia. All right, now this one's really interesting. So a study was done that involved 20 individuals struggling with insomnia, and they took them camping for 2 weeks. All right, so they found after 6 days into camping in the woods, these individuals slept an additional 2.5 hours more each night and were able to reset their circadian rhythm, which really helped them become normal sleepers again. Now, how did this happen? So let's think about it this way. Have you ever gone camping? And if you haven't, just try and envision it, right? I feel like a lot of us have sat around a fire before, whether that is going camping or, just even making a fire in your fireplace in your home, and you're just watching that fire, that relaxing color that comes from it, right? It just is so soothing and so relaxing. So try and imagine going camping, or just think back to that last time you were camping and, you're sitting around the campfire, you're talking, you're relaxing, having a really good time. But, you think it's super late, and you should probably go to bed, right? So you look at the clock and you realize, oh my gosh, it's only like 8:30 or maybe 9:30, right? Kind of depending on what season of the year we're talking about, and the time change, right? But you are so exhausted, but yet it is not even like time to go to bed in your own mind. And you ask, like, why am I this tired? Because maybe you don't go to bed until like 11 o'clock at night. Now, this is because your body is naturally adjusting to your circadian rhythm. So you start to go to bed earlier. You need to go to sleep earlier, right? Like your body is just begging for that. And by doing that, then you start to wake up earlier, especially if you're camping. You've probably noticed this, like you're waking up around like 5 a.m. sometimes with that sun, just as the temperature is starting to rise again, right? That whole domino effect of what happens from the temperature rising just slightly from the sunrise, the sunlight hitting our eyelids, right? And that whole pattern happens, that spikes cortisol, gets us up and out of bed. That is what happens as well there. And again, we talk about this relationship with light and circadian rhythm of part one of this call. That was last week, if you need to reference back to that. But because of this, you start to feel better. You start to feel more energized. You start to feel more in sync with your own life when you reset your circadian rhythm. So if you are struggling with insomnia or poor sleep hygiene in general, know that you can implement these things literally starting today to help support better sleep and finally flow with your circadian rhythm. All right. And the best part, a lot of these things are all free. Most of it, of course, unless you want to like look into investing in a sunrise alarm clock, or you realize you need blackout curtains, things like that. But it's just so powerful what the sunrise really and the sunset can do for our circadian rhythm. Now, I do want to have real talk here and, say this as a side note, like this certainly does not mean you have to go camping for 2 weeks. I know some people just can't even envision themselves going camping for one night. So that is okay if, that's just totally out of the equation. But you still need to help improve your circadian rhythm, right? You can absolutely still do that and improve your overall health and achieve a healthy weight by implementing these other tips that I went over. But really, what it comes down to is you just have to be committed, right? You have to be consistent with whatever kind of habit that you're implementing, because nothing good is going to come from doing nothing, right? We have to be consistent. We have to show up. The compound effect is real. You just have to be willing to show up, like I said, and be committed, and you will reap the benefits of what you are working towards. Okay, so just stay the course and know that this doesn't mean you have to go camping to help with your sleeping or insomnia issues. Okay. Now, a final word on how to maintain a healthy circadian rhythm. Just a couple tips that I wanted to lay out for you as well. Um, you know, We already went over a lot. And these will be a huge upgrade to your circadian rhythm, but following a few of these sleep hygiene guidelines can really help to ensure that your sleep-wake cycle aligns with your circadian rhythms. All right. So number one is maintain a regular schedule. So to the extent that it is possible, of course, eat your meals, go to bed, wake up at the same time every day. A consistent bedtime and wake time, especially, can be so supportive and one of the first things you start to do to help support your circadian rhythm. All right, tip number two is implement a bedtime routine. So choose 1 to 3 relaxing activities, right? Like taking a warm bath or stretching, maybe doing some breath work, intimacy, right? Something to help you again relax, rest, and get away from all the electronics, the blue light, right? That could be really interfering with our ability to produce that melatonin and get to sleep and stay asleep. Number three here is exercise, regular physical activity, even if we're going, on walks every day, getting at least 10K steps, however you are moving your body is really going to help you with good sleep at night. So, just be active, move your body in whatever way that looks like. But we always want to be mindful on that type of exercise, right? Especially in the beginning of this journey when we were really working on healing the body, lowering inflammation, and lowering stress to exercise. If it is very intense, can be a form of stress to the body. Our body will perceive it to be all the same. So we really want to be aware of the state that we're in. Be aware of the energy that we even have to give to a workout. Never demand more from your body than what it has to give. All right. Next tip here is avoid naps late at night. Naps, especially in the late afternoon, can interfere with your ability to fall asleep at bedtime. Next tip here, avoid screens and bright light before bed. Light, particularly the blue light produced by our electronic devices, whether that comes from our phones, our tablet, the TV, right? It inhibits melatonin production, as I lightly went over already. So, it's just really important to avoid this kind of exposure when you're trying to wind down. Lastly here, enjoy sunlight during the day, especially in the morning. Open the curtains, go outside, especially if you feel tired even during the day. Go outside, take a brief break out in nature, whether that is at your home, if you're working from home, or you're in the office, like allow yourself just a few minutes to step outside, lean on breath work, and just expose yourself to natural daylight sunlight that way. All right, now also I wanted to mention this. If you are a shift worker or maybe you have travel plans, talk to your doctor about how to minimize misalignments between your circadian rhythms, your sleep schedule, and your environment. But here's a couple examples here. If you are a shift worker, implementing a consistent sleep schedule even on your days off can really be helpful. If you are a traveler, gradually adjust your sleep schedule in small increments. That can really help you minimize the effects of jet lag. All right, I also have an herbal tincture that is amazing to travel with that really helps to just support the body, the immune system, digestion, and circadian rhythm. It is called I Travel Well by Banyan Botanicals. If you'd like to learn more about this, I can certainly send you the direct link on how to get it. But another wonderful thing to do when you do travel is to ground, meaning you go barefoot and spend some time on the earth's surface to really help your body reset and rebalance, lower inflammation, and really get back in flow with your circadian rhythm. All right, so to wrap up here, embracing these tips and reconnecting with your circadian rhythm will start to show up in all areas of your life. Like, we mentioned previously, like your biology, in your health, in your mood, in your emotions, in your mental processes, literally everywhere. All right, so I hope this is both encouraging and empowering for you. I'd really love for you to at least take one, maybe two tips that I gave last week to this week, combine all these tips together to start implement it into your daily routine consistently, as I said, for at least a few weeks and see how it begins to positively impact your sleep and your overall wellness. I would love for you to share that tip that you'll be implementing in our community chat thread so I can support you in it. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you next week. Have a good day.